Share with us your journey that led to you to become such a respected figure in South African theatre.
So I started out as an actor, but I always knew I wanted to direct.
Wow.
I always knew. I always knew I wanted to write plays.
How do you, for you, as you champion in South Africa, what does that entail and what does that mean for you?
I am very passionate about how diverse we can be in how we tell stories.
You are currently directing for Colored Girls, an American story, right? What in that story resonated with you?
There is just something about For Colored Girls that is just absolutely brilliant. And I would love to believe that every black woman today who's producing films, writing plays, were inspired by Ntozake Shange.
Hello. I am so excited to welcome you to another episode of Cocktails and Blurbs. I'm your host, Lindiwe Matlali, and today I am honored and thrilled to be sitting down with one of South Africa's leading theatre titans. And we will be talking to Mr. James Ngcobo, and he'll be telling us about his journey, his story, how he got to be who he is, and all the exciting things that he got to do in South Africa, not just in South Africa but globally. So I'm so honored to have you. Mr. Ngcobo is also a director of the Johannesburg City Theatre, where he's in charge of artistic director, right?
Yes.
Artistic director.
Yeah.
He will tell us what does that entail. Because when I'm thinking of an artistic director, I'm thinking we are draw. Art. So I'm looking forward to hear more from you. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Thank you so much also for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. On this show, we have a bit of cocktails. So my first question for you is, what is your favorite cocktail and why?
Oh, Lord. There's that cocktail that has triple sec, gin. It's a gin cocktail because I enjoy gin. Yeah, but it's very summery when even the way it looks, like the look of these cocktails,
Like the watermelon cocktail.
Yeah. So, but this one is a triple sec, gin and I think what's this, the lychee juice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And why? What's the story behind it? Why is it your favorite?
I guess it's because I've got a bit of a sweet tooth. So if I want sort of like a bit of a sugar injection, I will have that.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the person who's omnika Johnny Walker blue. You fag Sprite nje. And stuff. No, thank you. So my first question really with regards to your work is, share with us your journey that led to you to become such a respected figure in South African theatre.
It's such a difficult question. But I guess so that I don't go all the way back on it. But I think it's just the love.
Yeah, I think with your beard, you could be going
way
back.
Go back, yeah. But it's I guess it was just like the love of theatre that I discovered when I was growing up in a township called Kwamashu in Devon, and the
ungumZulu Zu.
Yes.
I love like
okay. I come from Devon.
Devon.
Kwamashu.
Okay.
Yeah. So and there were quite a lot of people who were produced in my township who were really amazing actors that one sort of grew up seeing. Ndaba Mhlongo is from Kwamashu.
Oh, yes.
F section Kwamashu. Alfred Nogwe. And there was an actor called Madoda Ncayane and an actor called Bheki Mkhwane. You know, all those actors were, when I was a young boy, I saw them.
And Lindiwe Matlali was huge. I mean, for kids who may not know, that's Somizi's dad, and we knew him as Umshefan, right? Because you know, growing up, he was really such a big figure. So
I think Lindiwe Matlali and Bill Flynn, for me, have to be the finest comedy actors this country's ever produced. You know, those two, and and also what was amazing about Brandaba that one could see was he had that comedy gift, but he was a song composer, he was a choreographer.
Wow.
You know, then you learn at an early age that it's not one thing you do in this sector, is you start developing a palette for more than the one thing. And so I started out as an actor, but I always knew I wanted to direct. This I always knew. I always knew I wanted to write plays. And then when I finished school, I trained with a company called The Loft, the Loft Theatre Company, which was maybe the best theatre company this country has ever had. It was in Durban. It was run by a guy called Nicholas Ellenbogen, who was our artistic director. And this is you must remember, is during the apartheid years.
Yes.
So we're in a company, and there's 4 of us black actors in the company, and the rest is white actors. And you're learning at that age. So I always say my training as a young actor at that age was you started doing stories that took you away from you.
Yes.
I did a lot of European work.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a young actor. And
Shakespeare.
Yes, and we had to learn accents, and we did really a lot of the Western work. For me, that is so. My training as a young actor sort of like pivoted around that, which I absolutely appreciate. I appreciated as I was growing older, because the fact that Ngumzulu, there were things that I always had that I would always be able to do, and it was nice to learn other things
and step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that exactly. That has actually made me an actor that, and I say this with all the humility in the world, that is not in a box. I'm not like, I just do this, I can do anything. So I hope I've answered, because but really, if you say, you know, is Durban sort of gives birth to me and my and my passion and my quest to be in the arts. Durban opens to me a huge tapestry, and it says it's as big as it can be. And at a very young age, as a young actor, I got to act in things that were such diverse stylistically, and I used to sing a lot when I was young.
Wow.
You know, and did musicals at the Playhouse, and had a very dear brother of mine called Lindiwe Matlali, that Lindiwe and I, we ended up being like the 2 black actors that were left in the company, and then another darling joined us, Ntati Mushesh.
Yes,
you know,
who
is still a sister, a dear sister to me, and we just had this idea that we wanted to be good, we wanted to break our backs, and so I learned very early in my career that what I do is not an extension of my coolness. So and so I'm not like, even now I'm not a guy you'll see hanging a lot with sort of the cool people in the arts, or being on social media. I mean, it's not my thing, you know. Because I just believe in the enormity of it and the humility that it needs, and believe that I need to focus on that. The other stuff is trivia for me. It's trivia. So you know, the thing of being a celebrity, I've never had it. I don't have it. I don't understand it, and it's not who I am. And as we talk later, you will also discover that on my journey, I have blessings that come along the way. Blessings as in Joma Fela, who came into my life, as in Hugh Masagela, who came into my life, as in Vusti Bakwane, who came into my life. And whenever I'm asked by people what is the black actor that I grew up looking to, and there's an actor called Owen Sijage. For me, is just as has always been sort of like the Northern Star.
What inspires you, your and your unique approach to storytelling and directing? And I'm gonna add a little question there. And what cocktail would you say represents your storytelling and directing approach? Yeah. But we need to cheers.
We need to cheers.
Yeah, cheers, like President Zuma. Cheers.
Yes. Yeah. So it would be, I think, the idea. I think I've always loved the idea that even if a story comes from a very tiny village, but the world owns that story because there's somebody somewhere else in the world echoing the very same story that you're telling somewhere else. Because stories are about the human condition.
Yeah.
Stories are about humanity. And so I love the idea that there is this universal linkage in any story. If you tell a story of a boy who stood at the door and thought, should I go left or right, and made a decision to go left, and he crossed the road and saw the most beautiful girl, and they met, and it becomes a boy meet girl story that happens everywhere. And then it's always that idea that if it happens everywhere, what makes the one you are telling different to the one that could be told by somebody who's across, who's on the other side of the river? And so that's the thing for me about story, and the idea also that you can concoct a story in your head and heart, but once you're in a room and directing people who will be telling it every night, you need to have the humility that tells you that they need to own it. Yes. Because they will be there every night telling it. And the humility that also opens you up to them coming up with ideas and going, but what if we try this? So the story you're telling is not biblical, so it's not cast in stone. It's a story.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That can go through certain interesting and beautiful adaptations to it. And so that is for me the thing as a storyteller and as a director, and that is why I just love the idea that we can invite people in the theater to witness stories from everywhere and walk away from this myopic idea that we can only tell stories of the place where we come from.
Yeah. With your role as the Johannesburg City Artistic Director, you are also championing South African theatre, right? How do you approach showcasing South African stories? I mean, you spoke a little bit about that now, and also the talent on the global stage. And I think sometimes you see when people, one day by your actor London, you can tell that the accent siyashintsha manje. It's got a bit of that. So when you do, you're going to not speak. So I want to how we can tell the hello is like, I just came back from London, But on a lighter note, like, how do you, for you as you championing South Africa, what does that entail and what does that mean for you? And how is your approach as you deal with that, as you do that?
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. So I think people who sort of like have seen like the works that I've programmed will attest to the idea that I am very passionate about how diverse we can be in how we tell stories. And like you look at the 3 theaters that I program, you look at Soweto Theater. So Soweto Theater, I walk into it and immediately know that whatever we do here at Soweto Theater needs to talk to the people that live in Soweto. And I say to the team, the first audience we need to get into this theater is the Soweto audience before you get people coming from anywhere else. So you can't have a thing that is the other way around, be in Soweto Theater and hoping your audience is going to be driving from far away. You need, and how do you get those people who are there? You then go out of your way to find things that will appeal to those people.
That will resonate with them.
Again, I mean, like you check, maybe by the end of this, I would have used the word humility so many times. It's one of my favorite words. And so that for me gets to the humility I needed to have to say, being at Soweto Theater and programming it is not about me. The me part that is needed is the clarity of how everything falls into place and when it's done and who's attached to it doing it. But the bigger part is for me to find out what is it that people want to see. So like I'll make you an example. So we're starting now with the program at Soweto Theater, and I am such a lover of doing theater in indigenous languages, and in my previous work where I was at the market, I would like to believe I was the artistic director who programmed more work done in indigenous languages, because I felt very strongly that there is an audience that we're not getting to the theater because we're not doing what they want to see. So we're starting with that now, looking at confirming a book in isiZulu, a book in isiXhosa, and a book in Sepedi that are going to be adapted and attach young people in the adaptation of that and in the direction of that, and get audiences to come to the theater to see actors they've known for a very long time, watching them on television acting in English and seeing them acting in these languages. I mean, this is a thing that has just happened with Vusignene, who was just one of my favorite actors in the country. You saw in Ilembe, people didn't know Vusi can speak Sitsonga very well, and he just blew the country. And somebody said to me, "How come he speaks Sitsonga so well?" I said, "Vusi is from Middlelands. He comes from a diverse community, and he sucked it all up when he was young. But it was the first time that he showed the country that he has that handle. So that for me is just what excites me, that there is more than what we see. And I love to be in a team that discovers them all.
And representation matters, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you need to speak to people who you want to watch a story that one, you can see yourself in it, and also that one also that can resonate with you.
You spoke about your grandmother earlier, and you said she was Swati. We used to have an actor called Mncedisi Shabangu who passed away last year. I don't think there's been an actor in this country who hoisted the flag of the Swati people in theater like Mncedisi. Mncedisi has spoken Siswati in Rome, in Venice, in the south of France, in Ireland, in Scotland, and people walk out of the theater and go to him in the bar and said, "What was that language you were speaking?" And he would say, "It's my mother tongue," and tell them about. So and I've always believed that if a play is written well and directed well, and there's a lot of heart in it, it doesn't matter what language it's in. You will understand it. I've just come back. I was in Russia. I've just come back. I was in Moscow and St. Petersburg as part of the BRICS conference, and I got invited to go and do a keynote. I did a keynote to 45 artistic directors from 30 countries around the world in St. Petersburg. I watched theater in Russia, in Russian. I got it. And before that, I was in London directing a brand new play which is coming to South Africa in 2025. It's called Never Look Back, written by a Ugandan playwright, set in Uganda, Rwanda, Abyssinia, Ethiopia, and Burma, which is now Myanmar. And the play was touching on the involvement of African soldiers during the Second World War. A story I never ever thought I would ever do.
Wow.
And I'm sitting, and the guy who wrote it, his name is John Rotomoch. And even yesterday I was talking to him, and whenever I call him, I say, Twende, which is Ugandan. And I go to, and I was sitting in a room directing a Ugandan actor, 2 Kenyan actors, an actor from South Sudan, a Scottish actor, and I had a sound person who was half Irish, half Yoruba. I had a Jamaican choreographer. This is 2 months ago.
Wow.
In the UK, and you walk into this space and you like, my God. And it was, I flew to London. I go to London. I flew on a Thursday. I go to London on Friday. I've done a lot of work. I do a lot of work in London, and I've taught my works, and I just spent...
Remember I told you, in my dreams, I'm good.
Yeah. But what I really appreciated was to go to that place to work with people I've never met before. The cast, I cast them through Zoom.
Wow.
And we walk into a room, and we were all just driven to tell the story of a girl called Anina and Abba. Abba is Mkulu in the Ugandan language, and we just had such fun. And that for me is I always say we come from a very terrible. People try and avoid and go, oh no, we must move on. We come from a country that had apartheid, and there's still a huge remnants. Of that era. I find it very delusional when people say, "Oh no, we must move on," or a bit false for me. But
I think if you haven't experienced the pain, it's easy to actually trivialize other people's emotions. And I think but listening to you, I can I'm hearing a lot of what you're talking about, what connects us as humans, irrespective of where we are, what language, where we come from, is that we are human first. And our stories may be different. Actually, not that different, it's just that we are in different environment. Because love resonates irrespective of what you're going through, right? Trials, we all go through. And now, it's just that the other one went through the same thing in St. Petersburg, and I went through the same thing in Johannesburg. And when I've been watching a lot of Netflix now, and I've been watching more stories from Spain, from Brazil. There was one show from Brazil. At some point, I thought, are they sure this is not Johannesburg? Because
it's very similar to the landscape you drive at, and every day. And so that is why I was saying that at that time we were so secluded as a country, but theater was the thing that linked us with the world. And so that's the power of it. Theater is able to it's an interesting passport that you get to have that links you with the world.
Yes. You are currently directing for Colored Girls, an American story, right? Is it American or something? Yes. Tell me about that. Like, what led you to bring it home? And and who's in it? What in that story resonated with you?
So as I answer you, I'm going to tell you that one of the blessings I have in life that as a boy growing up is I've got 6 sisters. And I've been around women.
Are you the only guy?
No. We 6 boys and 6 girls.
Oh, wow.
In my family.
I was about to say, if you're the only, I was like, I feel sorry for your wife. Because, we're so protective.
I'm number 10, of 12 kids. So, and obviously one has, growing up, I've been around women and things. And there is just something about for colored girls that is just absolutely brilliant. And I would love to believe that every black woman today who's producing films, writing plays, were inspired by Ntozake Shange. Ntozake Shange is in the same era as Maya Angelou, and there were just these amazing voices who wrote about women. So these stories of Ntozake are just these testimonials about women and relationships, and how to this day we find it difficult to navigate meeting each other between men and women.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not all doom and gloom. There are very happy stories in it. But what it is a bunch of stories around women navigating being in love with someone, loving someone who either loves them back, loving someone who has a secret that these women are not privy to, loving someone who never cares or never reciprocate the love. There's a beautiful story in for colored girls called the Lady in Yellow, about this young girl who lost her virginity in the back of a Buick of a car. She was the only virgin in her group, and it's a happy story. And she talks about, and you know, she's sitting between these two boys that she's liked both of them, and she was quite happy to lose her virginity to any of them. You know, she's in the car. Yeah.
Tonight is the night. Remind me of that song, Yaga Pet Midla. I was listening to Tonight is the night.
Yes, exactly. And it's a story of innocence. And I was talking because I even went to Cape Town when I was casting, looking for actors. And slowly when I was getting towards the cast that I'm going to tell you who's in the cast, and I was saying to the cast that when you read these stories, you realize that all these 7 women in the play are one woman. They're all Ntozake. They are all slices of Ntozake. Some of it is very immediate because it happened to her. Some of it is her reflection of things that she saw from a distance. She writes them and then she owns these stories. I mean, a character called Lady in Red has maybe the most hectic story in the play with a difficult guy that she's in love with, and a terrible thing that ends up happening with the kids in the play. But her writing is so clever because she sets up this girl who's losing her virginity, and it's all beautiful, and she talks about the music in the car, and there's a point when she says he started looking at me very seriously, like I was like a woman, and it says his voice lowered, and it's leading to that moment when they had sex or made love, whatever. And later, this woman is married to a guy that she doesn't know that he's gay. Oof. And they married, and he hides. He hides that. And the way that she writes about that is also saying society has not allowed people who are gay to be gay. To live their lives. So there is a very strong thing about Ntozake, that you get a sense that she's a lover of humanity. Those characters, I mean, I was saying earlier that it's going to be a very tough piece to put together, because you almost don't want to mess up with it a lot. You want to, whatever that you do, want to do with a lot of respect. You know, when somebody invites you and they've cooked mkhodu and suddenly it's got Belgian yogurt in it, and you go, no, don't put Belgian yogurt. No. Put salt and water, and there we go. That's the thing. Yeah. So we wanting. But the one thing that I definitely want to do as a director is because I always believe that when you take a work that has been done before, there has to be something very clear that says why you decided to do it and what you've done to it with respect. And also what is beautiful is that we decided that, I've always wanted to direct this piece, decided I want to do it, and and we applied for the rights. And the second we got the rights, we discovered that it's a set work also for high schools.
Wow.
So
you can actually take it and also get kids
Yeah,
to really start.
yeah.
Because I mean, that's I recently had Momo Matsunyane, and it was really, like her love for mentorship and what she was talking about taking. And I was telling her, remember, a lot of the stories, like for me, theater is scarce, has been what you'll see people coming to school and do it, and you get so interested in that. But I grew up in an environment where we didn't have a theater. And my brother used to like to write some stories, but this is Belfast, so, he didn't have a platform for him to get into that. And I think that's something, it's the next question that I'm going to ask you about mentorship, right? Because, we see people like you become these huge, figures, and sometimes very difficult and approachable. You spoke about celebrity. I don't have a problem with the word celebrity, because we're celebrating you for being one of those, people who made it, and you inspire us. When I had Mama Koni, because she also had told me the same thing, she doesn't want to be called a celebrity. I don't agree, because I see it as a way of, when you have that name, a name is so important, right? Like the name Ekaya Bagnigalon. But also when you think about, when the angel came, Gumir, at you're gonna have a child, and who's gonna have a name above all names, right? And that means, because you have that name, it means go to your kids, doors will open to them, because you are their father. So you become, when you look at your generations, when God says, I'll bless you, generations and their generations, when you have that name, umntwanakho uzovela afike la uthi baba wami bekungu-James Ngcobo, and instantly doors will open because of who you are. So it's really about understand, like sometimes understanding and celebrating. They say, thank you, God, for giving me a name that stands out, over many names. But it's really the pride and the ego then that becomes a problem when people are
ego is
celebrating.
right, but ego needs a control. You can't
Exactly.
be drunk on it. I find people like that very sad. But you mentioned the word mentorship, and I'm a freak for mentorship.
But my question that I was going to ask you was what we're talking about. Remember now when I was meeting how do you then help? Because you'll find somebody, maybe a young child who has the talent, because that's the thing. Talent is not enough. There's the work ethic,
there's
there's
the training,
that
the
you
studying,
need to do.
and all of that.
So how do you deal with that child who just thinks like, oh, ekhaya nofika bahleli ufike malume awungifake nabona nabazali abadawo James simbonile TV kodwa sola kasifaki. How do you deal with that, like in terms of from a mentorship perspective, in getting these young people to understand ukuthi it's not like uvela ungene nje ufakwe anyway?
I think obviously in my time that I've spent now in the industry, I can tell somebody who wants to be famous as opposed to somebody who is serious about being in the arts. And I've always been attracted to that person. And the person who's serious about being in the arts is a person who understands how difficult it is to be in the arts.
Yeah.
That it's not the glitter is nothing. The maintenance of a career is a very, very interesting expertise to have. How you maintain your career and how it never spills over to your life.
Yeah.
And those clear balances. I mean, I started a program at the market that actually won the Buzzer Award last year, called Titsumo. And Titsumo was a brainchild of mine at the market, which was about the mentorship of young people. And some of the young people that we started out there have gone on to university, and they studying. And for me, I was like looking at because you can get a young person who has an affinity for the arts, but they're introverted. And to make them understand that they don't have to be an actor, They don't have to be a dancer. They don't have to be a singer. They are actually more stable careers in our industry that are people you can walk past at the mall and not know, and that person pays a whole lot of people. They run the industry.
They're the most influential people.
Yeah, to get the young. In the 9 years that I was at the market, I got 45 young black directors, not even black, young directors.
Wow.
To direct at which was the first of.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about young black directors because we don't have a lot of those.
Yeah,
and that's the thing, because sometimes is that what we see, it's part of when I talk to young people around my, because I'm in the tech space, to say, what you see most of the time, the stories, everybody wants to be, Ebonang or Ubaba Ngcobo when you were on TV.
Yeah.
But they don't know, Guti, now you are actually having a much more stable career. You earn more than the people they see on TV. Because it's not, and I think sometimes the narrative around the art is the rich and the famous.
Yeah.
When sometimes actually in this country, it's not so much so. And I love when you're talking about the love of it. And also understand, telling the stories, writing the stories.
Yeah, we got to write our own stories.
Write your own stories, and
we can't just be obsessed with being famous. It's just fame for me. It's just it's neither the here or there. But it's my other favorite word is bravery. Is it what are you willing to do to go into untapped territory with all the noise and people attacking you, and you just close your ears and say, I'm seeing this, I need to go for this, and I know it's not easy to get to it, but I need to get to it. And so that for me has been an exciting thing, and I get moments to act, and I can tell you now I'll act again, because I'll always be an actor. But it's been so beautiful for me to understand what happens behind the scenes, and to understand people that sit with calendars and plan activities, to understand sitting with a CFO and go through financials and look at what is allocated for a certain fiscal year, and look at expenditure, look at ideas of how can we arrive at revenue, and look at how we can generate revenue, and not be reliant on the main shareholder that keeps us afloat. To be able to sit in boardrooms and sit with people, I've learned to leave my passion in the car. And go into a boardroom to people who've never watched a play, people who want to understand why they must give you money, to do what is the value add for them, make them understand that to be able to sit in an embassy and make somebody who's not South African feel strong about, so this thing that I'm doing now for colored girls, last year we as a theater, we celebrated the birthday of Dr. King, which is on the 15th of January. And as you know, Dr. King and Albert Luthuli were the first black people to be the recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize. Albert Luthuli being
Dr. King, that's Martin Luther King
Martin
for
Luther
the next
King.
generation.
Yes.
We have to be
Dr.
to be specific.
Yeah, Dr. Martin Luther King. And so it is a continuum of, when I went to the market, I introduced something that the market had never done. I introduced Black History Month at the market. And I think I directed maybe 9 of these plays that were written by, so somebody was asking me, oh, you're doing for colored girls, oh, you're doing what you were doing at the market. I said, well, what I was doing at the market was me. And I'm gone somewhere else with my passions. And, so not only there, work I've been able to do in other theaters, I've created the visibility of continental work, of works from Mali, from Nigeria, from Zimbabwe, works that are written by some of the most prolific writers that are writing on Broadway, that are winning Tony Awards. And to challenge an actor, to say to an actor, as much as you can play beautifully the people from this country, I think we spoke about it earlier, and you get an actor to get into an accent. I mean, I worked with a guy called Lemogang Tsipa, the guy who's just played Shaga, actually. And yeah, I directed him in a play where he played Muhammad Ali, and he was amazing. And,
Wow.
and had to learn the accent from Louisville, Kentucky, and things. And so I'm a lover of the actor because I'm an actor myself, and I know what an actor needs for an actor to flourish at what they're doing. And for as long as I still have a breath in me and I'm still in this space as artistic director, I just want to find interesting material that will be able to put on stage and for me, selfishly also, for me to grow, I need to find people I've never worked with. I mean, in this cast, there's only 2 people that I've directed before. It's Lerato Mvelase, and it's a lady called Tuto Hasinwe, who is, and I don't loosely use the word star. That kid is going to be an actor that people are going to speak about a lot. There is that kid at the moment in South Africa, and another one called Samyelisiwe Masego. She studied at Stellenbosch. I'm finding those 2 young actresses at the moment. They are just amazing. There's something about them, and I never had a daughter. I've got 2 sons. When I work with them, it's like I always tell my wife, and I say, I've got so many daughters.
Yes.
And I'm blessed. So, and there's a young lady called Danica Jones, who is my homie. She's from Durban, and is what you will say colored. She's and another young lady called Siobhan King, who is in the play, and I actually know her from the market. She went to the lab at the market, and she's become such a prolific DJ. She's in London right now, opening for some very well-known DJs in the UK. We've got a young lady called Boitumelo, who came back yesterday. I'm meeting her later today, who came back yesterday. She was doing a show in Amsterdam.
Wow.
You know, TUT alumna, and we have Spesihle Ndaba. A lot of people know her from Gomorrah. And I watch Gomorrah and I used to think, oh God, this kid is so beautiful. I love, and Spesihle is so beautiful. She's beautiful. She plays hard women so well. She went to Rhodes. And I discovered also a sense of movement that she has. I mean, she was trained by Andrew Parkland and all those people. So I've cast her in the piece, and we have a lady that I saw. There is one of my darlings that I used to work with was a lady who sadly passed away last year. Her name was Busiswe Lukhai. Ubusi Lukhai, and you'll remember her in City Sesla.
Yeah, I remember her, yes.
And then Busi was in a thing called How to Ruin Christmas. And she acted with this beautiful, amazing actress called Swanky Mafuku. Who I've remembered her. There used to be a place called Out here at the market, and after opening night we used to sit there and just have a banter after the show, and I was always blown by the mind of this kid, you know, because I also just love working with bright actors, and I just was blown by him. And I remember just thinking I would love to work with her. So that's my cast, and a lot of them have actually never performed at the Joburg Theatre, and it's important to change the faces of people who are. We've got Refilwe Modisele. Refilwe, who is just came in and auditioned for me and just absolutely blew my mind. And then I discovered that Refilwe studied law. She never even studied drama.
Wow.
Yeah, she studied law, but she's got this love and this gift for the arts, and she's been doing a lot of films. And so I said earlier, selfishly, for me to grow, I need to work with people who are going to say to me, "What do you mean?" Because I've never worked with them before.
Yes.
And so I'm quite petrified as we start working, in this piece, but also to just be constantly looking at how we honor Ntozake Shange. And the other day I was just thinking, and I just said, because I was blessed, I owned a company with Hugh Masekela. and all the way to his death. Prayu and I had a company called Sibo Jama. We did a lot of work together that we took internationally. And when I was doing shows, and I would get Prayu to work on music, and
Wow.
it's one of the pieces where
That's
I've
one guy
missed.
I feel so sad that I never met.
Oh, you would have loved him. You would
I don't
have-
think he
yeah.
would have loved me. You see the hair. I remember what he said.
No, but I'll never forget. There was one. I was directing a production, and there was one lady who had put on hair, and I walked in, and she said, "Upu Prayu."
Yeah.
Once again, yes, Prayu. What's your master Prayu? And Prayu walks in, says to her, "Hello," and she says, "Hi, Prayu. Oh, yeah, me and he hugged her, but he was just so amazing. And Prayu, I mean, you worked with him in Colored Museum. These plays, Prayu, like for Colored Girls, he would have watched the premiere of this work. He would have been in the premiere, and I would have worked with him in the music space. But I'm blessed with a young brother called James Ngcobo, who's doing sound, and I've got a young lady called Tabi Singh talking about mentorship, first time designing for the theater from TUT. I met with her. She's just sent me a sketch of the costumes, and I'm always bringing young people and get young people to there's a young lady called Mbali Ndlozi who I've been really mentoring at the theater, and we're giving her a play to direct next year at Soweto Theater. She went to the lab, and then she went to UCT to study drama. Have the humility to pass it on.
Yes.
And I've always said, if you ask me, what is a saddest person? A saddest person for me is somebody who thinks what they do, they must be the only person doing it.
Yeah,
That's a sad
Yeah.
somebody. And I've lived my life like a complete existentialist. I believe every day I'm walking towards my grave. And there is an imminent grave, and I come from a home where we freely talk about death, and embrace death, and whilst you can, if you can still breathe, do something that makes you happy and something that makes somebody else happy. And
I mean,
that's
I
life.
agree with that. That's really something I believe in, around the importance of sending down the ladder.
Yeah.
Because even my kids we talk about death all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, because I keep telling them, I'm preparing you for a day where I'm no longer here.
Yeah.
Like, I do want to hear that all the time. I'm like, yes, you're going to hear it until I die.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to live. You need to be able to survive and thrive after I'm gone.
Yeah. And people will be shocked when my son at 4.5 years will walk in and say, to me, "Baba, and people will say, oh, James, what is this?
This question is also, you've been so amazing and really generous in sharing. What are some of your dream projects? I'm interested to know, or ambitions really. What are you still looking forward to explore in your career?
I mean, for me, really, it has a lot to do with directing internationally, and which I've started doing, and the idea of working internationally is just something that eats me up every day. That to just go and work at some of the most exciting theaters and I'm not a guy to start a school, because I think you must know your competence or where your passions are at. I'm not a guy who's going to start an acting school. It's not my, but if you know what I mean, just like to have a school with people. I'm not that guy, and I've got people who do that, who do it very well. But it's working internationally, and for me also, one of my biggest passions is I've been looking at Anglophone countries that are in our continent, as in Ghana, as in Nigeria, as your Swaziland, to create works that have a pipeline that gets works that can tour the continent.
Wow.
In areas where we don't have a language barrier, where we
Wow.
have a shared history that we're all colonized by the English.
Yes,
And be
yes.
able to take works like that. And the other thing is also I have such a passion for directing big works, you know, and they are, you know, there's a very huge project that I'm working on that will be unpacked 25, 26.
Wow.
You know, it for me signals the stuff that I'm wanting to do post working at the Joburg city theaters, you know.
Wow.
And I've got works of mine that I've written and directed that I still want to tour around the world, you know.
Wow,
And that still have big touring legs that
Yeah.
But to answer you is the idea of working beyond this country, to just work.
And that's about really building relationships, right? And
Yeah,
making sure that you
yeah.
have
And-
those relationships outside of the country.
And it's something that I got to experience. At some stage in my life, I was an artistic director of a festival that is based in Holland.
Wow.
I ran that festival for almost 5 years before I went to the market. It was called
Wow.
Afro Vibes. And,
Wow.
you know, I worked in 19 countries in Europe.
Wow.
And it was just so, you know, amazing. And it was closer, it was around the time when there was a centenary of the First World War. And I was programming works about 2017 that time. I was programming works, and you know, just the idea of falling asleep in Amsterdam tonight, and in the morning wake up, go for a jog, have a little breakfast, go to the airport in Schiphol, jump on the plane, go to London, have a meeting the whole day there, sleep over, go to Birmingham the next day, and late the other day fly back and go to Belgium, to Antwerp, to go and work at the Schouwburg there. And it's just so amazing. And there I was, this South African artistic director, and just sitting with people from Wales, from Aberystwyth, from Cardiff, you know, and theatres in London, from Utrecht and Eindhoven, Rotterdam, and I'm the glue, I'm the conduit of all these 19 artistic directors in the room, and giving a vision to a thing. And I think that it's that taking things seriously for me that I was talking to you. And that is why I'm even like, I'm scared of cool people, because when I meet cool people, I think there's something they know that I don't know.
Yeah.
And because,
like, how are you so calm when this work is serious?
yeah.
Like, you know, how are you?
I run a mile when I see cool people. If I can't, I sit like this.
I'm just curious. I mean, I think, you know, I'm so excited talking to you, because listening to you, you remind me of one of the interviews I like to watch is if I hear that Denzel Washington is on an interview, because of the way, you know, he loves the art, but also, you know, how serious he takes it, you know, and that's also one guy, even when you're listening to him, you don't get a sense of, you know, I've made it. You get a sense of, you know, somebody who studies a character, studies the environment, and really wants to do a good job. And that just shows that acting is just, you don't just come in just because you're talented. There's a lot of hard work. You know, good actors invest, you know, in their craft and learning. So my question is, your life beyond the stage, when you are not immersed in theater. Just talking to you, I can see you are so immersed in it. It's like you live in this, right? What do you do for fun? And do you at least share some cocktails, you know?
Yeah, one of the things that really relaxes me, I love walking. I walk a lot, you know, and being a Durbanite, I swim.
Oh, wow. So you're one of those black guys that can swim.
I swim very well. Yeah, no, and also, you know, I'm a father to two beautiful boys. You know, and I just and just seeing my first one, who's 32, was really taken off. You know, he's studied very hard. He's taken off in his career, and the young one is going to second year. And I was blessed with an amazing lady that I got to meet 30 years ago. I was absolutely you know, and so those are things that and yes, I would have a cocktail, and I love a lot of wine. I'll have, you know, and friends of mine. I'm very good friends with Siyabonga Twala from eThekwini, and sibizana Chegeche na, hey Chegeche, you know, and we can, and Utwala, we both actors, but when we see together, we transcend being an actor, being actors, and just be out as a Devon and just chill. And then I love long distance driving.
Okay.
Yo, I can drive to Timbuktu if I can. I just, you know, to see places. So that's a thing. And I love reading also. Not just to hibernate with a lovely. I'm reading a beautiful book at the moment today that is put together by these two African American writers who are in academic space, and it's called His Name is George Floyd. It is a fascinating book about 3 generations of George Floyd's family and the trajectory of that family, and how it was inevitable that he was going to end up the way that he ended up. And I'm rereading Kwe Ama's 2000 Seasons, one of my favorite writers, the Ghanaian writer who wrote what I still consider maybe the best corruption book ever written in Africa. The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. So, you know, and looking forward to reading Justice Malala's new book about this scenario we're in this country, the dream and whatever. Yeah. So
and I have a book for you, Caster Semenya's book. So I've signed. So I expect you to read it.
Beautiful.
Next time I see you, we'll discuss.
Caster's story is a film.
She's amazing.
She is a movie that somebody needs to make a movie about the tenacity, the resilience. See, this is what I was talking about. Caster has been holding a light for a whole lot of kids in this country to look up to, and just look at somebody who dared the world and said, no, I'm going to do this. I've never met in my life. I have a lot of respect.
No, me too. I haven't. I'm hoping to meet her. She's just one of those women who just, like, you know, her resilience, her strength, she's just everything. Like, I want my kids to be, you know, somebody who's just has the strength, and even when it's difficult, to say, I'm not gonna hide, even if you're trying to humiliate me. I'm not gonna hide. I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna fight for who I am. So it's amazing. I think they're bringing me the book. I can have the book. Thank you. So this is the book I'm gonna give you, Casters. I got a couple of 20 signed copies, thanks to Kulani. From her to give to special people.
Thank you so much.
I'm hoping as many people get to read her story and you know, and talk to our kids about, you know, what it means to succeed, and even when you are successful, the kind of, for a lack of a better word, the kind of shit you still have to go through. So my final question: what's your message? What's your message to the next generation who wants to get into acting, who wants to get into theater, who also, you know, have seen what you talked about earlier, the glamorizing of the craft, of, like, you know, that Instagram stories, and, you know, what do you tell them about, you know, nabafika bathi ngifake because bafuna ukuba go Instagram and get followers?
So for me, is like, be in it to make a difference. Don't be in it to blend in. Blending in is terrible. Make a difference. Show up in it, and understand that you could never ever, even if you wish to, be bigger than it.
Wow.
You could never.
Wow.
You know, and ngolwami ulimi engancela kuma ngithi indenje iphiwo esiphathisiwe zona akusona sakuphathisiwe and funeka usibambe kanjena until your last breath now usiphathisa omunye umuntu.
Wow. No, thank you so much, Babu Ngcobo. It's been such an honor to talk to you. You've been so generous and so kind, and I'm just so inspired by you. I mean, I really am, and I'm hoping that, you know, the young people who get to see this will see, you know, the kind of work ethic that, you know, you need for you to be successful, because it's so important that, I think, as I mentioned earlier, how we talk about, you know, the journeys, not about the journey sometimes. Yes, the journey is great because you learn a lot, but they must also understand that the most successful people fail the most. And you need to have a very
Beautiful.
positive relationship with failure, because after every failure, you must just get up and say, okay, you know, what's next? And it's the same thing with success as well. Because if you start being stuck and say, you know what, I did this show, I've met somebody who's like, I did this show 20 years ago, you know, we told them. Then you become the muntu in 1975, being him cool, because you got stuck in that success. And it's the same thing. It's like, okay, what's my next? Because that just gives you that to say, okay, what's next? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What more can I still learn? And just listening to you, I can tell that you still like, what more? What more can I learn? Because, you know, so thank you for not just, you know, talking about it, but living it. And I hope that a lot of young people will listen to this, will hear it, and they will take it. And one day I'll get to see you someone say, yo, yazen, this is Lindy. Or maybe I'm saying Lindy. Yeah, no, Babu Ngcobo. That's what changed my life. And that's really, I'm hoping that they will find that one thing from this interview that will shape the trajectory of their life.
But now from me, I want to say thank you for including me in the list of people that you want to talk to, and the different ages, as you know, and different fields, as you told me. We need such portals, because everything that we do without such portals, they become a secret. So this gives visibility to what one does.
No, thank you. You've been the best kept secret, by the way. Just listen, I'm like, oh my God, he's so awesome. So thank you.